We are learning Mishna Yevamos, Parakeh, chapter 5, Mishna Mishnah 5. All right, so continuing with all the different combination of acts in a situation where you have a man who died, he had two wives, both wives fell for Yibam to the one brother, and the combination of different things that he is doing to one wife and then to the other. So now the Mishnah now starts off where the first thing that he did was do chalitza. Chalatz v'chalatz. He did chalitza to one of his sisters-in-law, meaning one of his brother's wives, and he did chalitza to the other. Let's just go through the cases first. Oy chalatz v'asa maimer. Or let's say he did a chalitza to one, and then he did maimer, he did the kedushin, the rabbinic kedushin that's done to a Yevamos. Or after doing chalitza, nasan get. After giving chalitza to one, he gave a get to the other, which again we've been saying that a get, midrabanan, has an effect on a woman who falls to you for yibum. Ubal, or let's say after doing chalitza to one, he cohabited with the other, which means he actually performed yibum on the other. So this is the first set, right? Where he does chalitza to one, and then he does either chalitza to the second, does maimah to the second, gives get to the second, or cohabits with the second. What's going to be the halacha then? So you'll have to wait a minute. Oy, ba'al ubal. Or let's say the case is that to the first, he cohabited with the first wife, and then he cohabited with the second one. Oy, ba'al v'asa maimer. Or he cohabited with the first one, and there's maimer to the second one. Or after cohabiting with the first one, nasan get, he gave a get to the second one. Or after cohabiting with the first one, chalatz, he gave chalitza to the second one. Says the Mishnah, ein achar chalitza klum. There is nothing that follows after chalitza. And as the Bartanura points out, although the Mishnah doesn't say it, the same phrase has to follow for the cases where you started off with be'ila. Ein achar be'ila klum. There's nothing after cohabiting, nothing follows after cohabiting. Okay, so now let's go through what happened. Let's go through the first set. The first set is, he goes over to the first wife, he does chalitza to her. Now, when he does chalitza to the first wife, that frees the second wife also. You do chalitza to one, they're both free now. There is no more yibam bond that's left. Now, after you go and do chalitza to a woman, you cannot marry that woman's relatives, as we've had before. Can't marry your chalutza's relatives. And a woman who's a chalutza can't marry a kohen. Again, midrabanan. All this is midrabanan by the chalutza. Now, he did chalutza to one, and did chalitza to the second one. He did chalitza to the second one. The Mishnah says the second chalitza is worthless. It's worthless. There is nothing to it. Once you do a chalitza and you remove the zikah according to Torah law, there is nothing that another chalitza can do or add. So the second chalitza is absolutely worthless, which means that the second chalitza, the second woman you did chalitza to, it's nothing. You can marry her relatives. That second woman you did chalitza to, kshmari kayin. Because there was nothing. There was nothing to the second chalitza. All right, next. You started with chalitza, and then you did maimer. Now, maimer, as we said, is just another kedushin. It's just an act of kedushin. There's no special, nothing goes on different by maimer than any other kedushin. And nonetheless, the Mishnah is saying that after chalitza, there is no maimer. Which would mean after you do chalitza to one, you can't even do it. There's no kiddushin in the second. This we've already said many times, as the Mefarshim the commentaries point out. This Mishnah is following the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that when it comes out that a woman may only be prohibited to you, she may only have a prohibition to you. There's no death punishment whatsoever involved. But if she's a relative and she is forbidden to you, there is no kiddushin in that woman. Just as no kiddushin in an erva, no kiddushin in that woman. So in this case, if you did chalitza to one, the chalitza forbids the other wife to you. That's a halacha. That's the Torah law. You do chalitza on one wife, you can't marry her. You can't marry the other one. So that would be a situation where Rabbi Akiva would say that where she was your brother's wife that now became forbidden to you, there's no kiddushin there. So again, the maimer is absolutely nothing. The get is nothing. there's no point to the get that's being given to the second woman. There's no yibum there. There's no connection there whatsoever. The get is absolutely meaningless. And again, the same ramifications. You give a get to the second woman, you're allowed to marry her relatives. She's permitted to a kohen. And then the other case of Baal, the last case of Baal, again, Baal means he just went and cohabited with her. Now, that can work if she's your Yevama. If she has a Yibam bond to you, that works. But if the Yibam bond is gone, it means nothing. It's just an act of cohabitation. So therefore, that's the order. That's why the Mishnah says, Ein acher chalitza klum. There is nothing after the chalitza. Even again, you did chalitza to one, now you did chalitza or the other things to the other one, it means nothing. Now, let's go through the other case. The other case was where he did be'ila first. He cohabited with the first one. When he cohabited with the first one, that means he did yibum on her. She is his full-fledged wife. The second one is free. She goes free. That's what the same way by chalitza, the second one goes free. If yibum is on the first one, she goes free. All right. So if you do another be'ila afterwards to the second one, just an act of cohabitation, means nothing. If you do mimer to her, well, since we're following Rabbi Akiva, again, she is forbidden to you, and you're not allowed to marry her. She's a forbidden relative or former relative, and therefore, following Rabbi Akiva's opinion, as we said before, the kedusha is not going to work. You give her a get, no point in the get. There's no zika bond on this second woman. There's nothing there. You go and you do chalitza. That's a waste of time. There's just no point to it, because once you do the yibum on the first, and the yibum bond is gone from the whole household, from both wives, there's nothing that's going to follow. So the Mishnah says only ein achar chalitza klum. There's nothing after chalitza, but as the Bartenura points out, the Mishnah also means after bia there's nothing. Now the Mishnah concludes, bein yavam echad shtei yavamas. All this applies whether we're talking about one yavam, one brother, and two yavamis, two wives of his brother that passed away. That's what we've been talking about until now. Bein shnei yavamin liyavama achas. Or two brothers on one wife. Everything we said until now is going to be the same. If you have one wife and you've got two brothers and they both do something, one does one does the other, everything we said until now is going to apply there too. Now, one example that they bring down here in the notes, which is just very interesting just to point out, is the following. For example, if one brother performs mimer with one widow, he did mimer on her. It means he did the kedushin, the rabbinic kedushin on her. Then a second brother performs mimer with the same widow. The second brother does kedushin to the same woman, same widow. She's the only one there. Both brothers must give her a get, since both mimers created a rabbinic marriage. This was actually machlekes Tanoim, but according to the sages, according to the Chachamim, yesh mimer acher mimer. You can have mimer after mimer. Being that as long as there is a zika, as long as there is a yibam bond from this woman to any of these men, their mimer works. Because the first mimer basically, so to speak, covers some of the zika, and the second mimer will cover the rest of the zika. But the point is, as long as there's a zika there, as long as there's a yibam bond there, mimer is going to work. So if two brothers do mimer to the same sister-in-law, they both got to give her a get. And all the combinations that we said until now are going to apply there too. I am not going to go through all of them right now. But that's just that the Mishnah is saying. Everything that we had before. So everything that we had by one Yavim and one Yavama, by one Yavim and two Yavamas, we have by two Yavims and one Yavama too. Okay. Okay. Now, we're talking about where a person says Lashon Hara in front of the person he's speaking about. That we spoke about yesterday. And the Chofetz Chaim was pointing out that the fact that you've got the chutzpah to do it in front of this person's face should not be taken as any proof that it's correct, although people tend to do that. Now, here's the thing. We did say before, Chofetz Chaim did say before, that if, let's say, Reuben says Lashon Hara about Shimon in front of Shimon, and Shimon says, you're right, I admit, you allowed to believe it? Certainly. If he admitted to it, you're allowed to believe it. Okay. And what if he didn't admit? He just stayed, but he didn't protest, but he stayed silent. Stayed silent. There is very often a rule that we find in the Gemara called shtika kahida. If you're silent, it's like admitting it. So how about over here? So says the Chofetz Chaim, even if this person who someone is deriding in front of others remains silent, that should not be any basis whatsoever to decide it's true. Even the kind of guy that when he's the kind of guy that never seems to be afraid to say something that he disagrees with. You know, his nature is that if you say something that he doesn't like, he's going to let you know. And all of a sudden, and now he's quiet. Now he's quiet. Well, he's never quiet. Why is he being quiet? It must be that it's true. Because maybe this time he finally decided to keep his mouth shut and not to have to say anything and to have to really flame the fires of fighting even more. Or he decides, there's no point in responding. What's it going to do for me? Even if I would respond, then I would leave him anyway. So what's the point? So he figures better to remain silent, right? Not to try to fight back and get people even more stirred up about what they're hearing and believing it. And therefore he decided to remain silent and be from those who are ashamed. And therefore, if he remains silent, that is no basis to accept it as the truth. If he admits. But he remains silent, even if it's a person who typically would respond to these kinds of statements about him or other things. Nonetheless, it could be that now he decided better to be quiet, and therefore there is no basis from his silence that he is admitting to what this person said. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.